Ugh, online dating is the worst. You finally get a match with someone, and then you sort of you have to say something witty to them. So you rifle through their pictures, and then you go through their profile. And if they are a lady and you're attracted to ladies, then it probably says something like, "I like gin," or "I like going on adventures." And if you're someone who's into men, it's probably just pictures of men holding fish or up a mountain or something. But then you notice a word in their profile description. You think, I know, I'll dazzle them with my etymological knowledge, my ability to Google. That's the way to form a long-term bond or get laid. So then you write this. Hello, I was just going to attempt something witty about the etymology of the word etc., but then I looked it up and I fell down a rabbit hole and ended up on the Guardian style guide, and now I find the fact that they don't use a full point at the end of etc. fascinating, and I've no idea what I'm supposed to be doing anymore. How's lockdown going for you? And then they reply, you sound unhinged, with a winky face. And then you reply with an upside down smiley face. And that is, of course, where it ends. And then you think, why am I single? But then you think, actually, I could do a bloody video about this. Etc. is an adverb. You can use it to modify a sentence to give it context. You might say, when you're ordering a takeaway, I will have the chips and the chicken and the pizza, etc., etc., etc. When you are ordering everything off of the menu because you would like instant diabetes. Or you might walk into a pub. I mean, you can't right now, but hopefully in the future we can all walk into pubs. If you're from the future, you're watching this in the future, let me know whether you can walk into pubs anymore, because I would like to. Anyway, you're walking into a pub and you say, hello, Mr. Bar Steward, I would like a pint, please. And then later on, I would like another pint. And then a bit of time after that, I'll probably have another, etc., etc., etc. The root of etc. is completely straightforward and uncontested, which is such a relief. The et bit is Latin for and. It's the same et or a as you found in modern French. And the cetera bit comes from ceteris, meaning the others. So totally it means and the others. But in this form, it means and the others as in things. We'll get to that later on though. There are roughly 4 ways you can write it, 3 ways which are accepted in modern parlance, and 1 way which is, well, this is largely gone now from the language and from how we write it, so we can go through those if you like. You can write it ETC with a full stop at the end or a stop at the end, which denotes that it's an abbreviation. If you're from North America, you might call that full stop or stop a period, which of course you can call it that if you like. If that etc. is at the end of a sentence, so the example sentence might be like, I like many cats, I like tabby cats, and I like black and white cats, and I like cats which are all one colour, etc. And then that's the end of the sentence. Then the full stop or the period at the end of that sentence does double duty, so it both is for the abbreviation and it's for the end of the sentence. You don't need to double up that period / full stop. It's a happy little Helperton multitasking stop / period. So you can also write etc. as etc., but all as 1 word, which I don't see very much, I must admit. Or you can write it as etc., so as in 2 words, so the et, and then a space, and then etc. The final way, which you won't see probably at all unless you're reading a very old book, is you can write it with an ampersand. So I've done ampersands before in another video, probably quite a long time ago, probably before I did any of this stuff with like having a backdrop or, you know, editing properly or having lighting or whatever. Either way, you can write it with an ampersand, which of course from that video you'll know means et or a, and then cetera, or et and then the C. You can do that as well, but nobody does that anymore, so maybe, I don't know, just ignore this little bit of the video or something. I should say at this point that the etc., the abbreviation etc., so etc and then a stop, is almost universally accepted in everything from, academics all the way through to professional writing. Or even if you're just sending a note to your friends about what cats you like, or dogs, this is an inclusive channel. It is not acceptable to use etc. when you're referring to people, though. That has its own and others thing, which is et al. The al bit in et al, it's short for alii and ally, which are both the in order the masculine and the feminine versions of those particular nouns. Those would be nouns. Yes, that's correct. I know what I'm talking about. There is also a gender neutral one, a neuter one, but really all you need to know is that et al covers people. It also covers places, because et al can also stand for et alibi, which is, it means elsewhere. So et alibi would be and elsewhere. And if you're wondering, of course, that's where we get the word alibi, which is to say that you were in a different place other than where there was a crime taking place. So I might say something like, I was not watching Celebrity Love Fashion Island advert. I was down the pub drinking to the death of our culture. That would be my alibi. And so, last things last, is etc. a loan word or a calque? You see, I didn't even know that a calque was a thing until I did the research for this video, and now I do know it's a thing, so I'm now going to tell you what it is. A calque is a word or a phrase which is borrowed from another language but then is translated into the language of which it is that's borrowing it. So a calque differs from a loan word because a loan word just takes the word from the other language and just uses it wholesale. So khaki is a good example of that. So you wouldn't say, oh look, there is a man over there dressed in soil or dirt. I mean, you might say that, but if you are referring to the fact that he's wearing khaki trousers, you would say there is a man over there wearing khaki, because that's the word that comes from that language. We haven't translated it. The translation would be soil. You understand what I'm saying, right? So here's where things get tricky. You see, etc. was a calque originally. It was borrowed from Greek by the Latins. That's not even I don't even know what I'm saying. Etc. was borrowed from Greek into Latin. So the original phrase was a Greek phrase, which I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce, but was then translated into Latin. I'm kind of repeating myself, but I think it's kind of complicated. Anyway, so then etc. makes its way into English, and it's a loan word at that stage because we don't translate it, we don't change it in any way, we don't say and the others. Literally, we say etc. Interestingly, in most other languages, it seems that etc. is translated, so it still remains a calque. So in English, is etc. a calque or a loan word? And I tell you what, I don't think that I'm qualified to explain this to you. So here is my friend Alethea, who has many letters after her name, most of which I don't know really what they mean, but she knows quite a lot about language. So here's her explanation.
I won't tell you again. Shut the fuck up. Hi, Tim. So, etc. is both a loan word and a calque, dependent on context, i.e. The language. So, in Latin, it's a calque because it took a phrase from Greek and translated it literally to be used in Latin. In English, it's a loan word because we use it in its Latin form and we don't change it. What's interesting is that the temptation is to think that Latin-derived words predominantly come from the Norman Conquest, from French, basically. And whilst many do, that's not the only route by which we get Latin-derived words in the English language. For example, much later, we borrowed words directly from Latin. And that's one of the many reasons why we have cognate words in the English language that seem to do the exact same thing and be derived from the same word, because they took two different routes to get to a very similar point. Fascinating!
So there you are, a definitive answer that if you're into grammar or language, there are no definitive answers. Either way, cheers. I'll probably see you next week. Thanks.